It's time to talk about elections again, specifically the local government election, and also let's see what's happened to the provincial council election, which nobody seems to be talking about yet. And to discuss all this, we have two of the professionals in elections in this country. With us this evening, Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchie, Executive Director of PAFREL, and Mr. Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRIS, both of whom, well, it's their business to find out what's going on with elections, with the election campaigns and the elections itself. Right. Welcome, gentlemen. Now, Rohana, could you give us a brief on where we are in the process with regard to the local government election? Because we know that a bill was submitted to Parliament and then it was challenged, it went before the Supreme Court, and then it seems to have gone quiet. So what's going on?
Yeah. I think if we go back a little further, now everybody knows that the nomination has called and the election was
Nominations were called more than 2 years ago.
More than 2 years. Actually, it was scheduled into 2023, April 25th, or earlier March, but later it postponed to the April 25th. But after that, nothing has happened due to the financial issues and various things. That election was postponed indefinite now. So with that circumstances, we had that parliamentary elections and the presidential elections. At the meantime, we went to court and asked the compulsory, as the local election soon. And at the same time, some other parties also went to the court and try to delay the elections also. So that also one side. Now, after these all main elections, the presidential and parliamentary elections, that was the history actually. Now, the election commissions and the political party, in fact, they consult us also. We all realize that if we go with the previous nominations, there are a lot of issues coming up with that. So, therefore, political party, especially the parliament, the party leaders, and get together and they decide to call the fresh nominations. To call a fresh nomination, you have to cancel the existing one. So, to do that, so they have to bring the bill to the parliament. Now, it has approved by the cabinet and sent to the parliament and for the first reading. And you know, when you submit the bill to parliament, so anybody can challenge within the 2 weeks period. So this bill also challenged by several parties, including one political party, but they were not against recalling the nominations or cancelling the nominations, but they are demanding certain other things, some changes related to reforms actually, the law reforms part. But court has, I think they heard the case couple of days, because there is again a window for a court to decide, 21 days maximum. But anyway, the last month the court has, I think, finished their hearing, and now we are waiting the court decision. It has to go to either president or a speaker. I think last week also there was certain little confused, and someone said that it has submitted to parliament, someone says that no, it has not come to yet. But I think so far it has not officially gone to the either speaker or a president. That is our knowledge. So now anyway it has to come to parliament and for the second reading, and then the parliament can pass it.
So, but usually for the challenge of a bill, the Supreme Court would send it to the speaker, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's generally they send it to the speaker. So if we get these court decisions within next week or this week, so probably we can take it to the table again, maybe in between 20 to 28th February. So the later part of this month. So in such a scenario, I think the elections may not have before next Sinhala Hindu New Year. That was our initial thought, whether we can have a local elections before the New Year. But with the person contest, so it's not sure whether we can go early elections, but probably immediately after the New Year, we can have a local elections, because you can't delay the elections also, because I think, Niresh, you can remember that PAFREL and a couple of other organizations went to court, and there's a court order also to asking the Elections Commission to go for a sooner election. So there is no way to delay the elections in that way. So therefore, I'm sure that elections will or should take place somewhere later part of April.
Or could it go into May? Possibly.
There are possibilities. There are early May also could be possible. But if it's go beyond that, I will make sure that we will definitely fight it in the court again. We have to do it again.
Well, yes, the Supreme Court did determine that this election has to be held as soon as possible, basically giving preference to the presidential election and the general election. So those have been held. So now this one has to be held, unless there's some massive calamity, which you can never rule out with global politics these days. But let's not get into that. Now, so we're expecting late April or early May. I think we need to refresh our audience's memories as to why the earlier nominations are unsuitable. Manjula, can I bring you in to explain that?
Yeah, as discussed, actually, you know that there were two elections to be conducted. The first one is provincial council elections, and other one is local government election. Both elections, it would be technically correct if I am saying that it totally disappeared at the provincial council elections. I think if you can give me a chance to mention that also, actually, that the provincial council election also, that it was in the parliament, actually there was a discussion, and we can explain in deep, but however that in 2017 Yahapalana government wanted to amend the Provincial Council Act. After that, totally disappeared that Provincial Council election. After that, in 9th March 2023, Election Commission wanted to hold the election. However, due to several reasons, actually, that the election didn't happen. Then if we can recall what are the reasons behind that. The first reason is that, actually, you know that at that time that the ruler, that the former president didn't want to hold the elections due to the less popularity at that time. Therefore, we know that he made several efforts to postpone the elections. Even, actually, as an executive arm, he used heavily the administration, that the officials, government printer, even the secretary to the Ministry of Finance, like that. After that, the main reason is actually that the JVP led by NPP government, during the campaign period, we heard that one of their major promise was that conduct all the postponed election on time. Therefore, that they pledge to have both local government and provincial council election. It is one of their major, one of key pledged given during the campaign period. Therefore, the major reason was that, you know, that it was happened. I mean, the scheduled date was 9th March 2023. Now we have moved to 2025. Now it is almost 2 years. 2 years mean that the one of reason is that, according to the Election Commission, you know, that at that time during when they were calling nominations, actually they were used the electoral list, that the voter list 2022. In between that time period, you know that now we already faced 2 elections, the both presidential and parliamentary election. During that time period, actually there were more than 500,000 voters increased. If you can compare that time, the numbers, then the reason is that actually maybe some people have get registered on the voters list in 2022, but they may not have registered in 2024 list. They have a technical issue. Then due to sort out such practical issues, actually that the most of political party leaders were discussed that issue, and actually to sort out that issue, they brought back they wanted to cancel the election, cancel the nomination. That's one thing. Other thing is, you know, that there were more than 85,000 candidates handed over nomination period at that time. But some of people actually already died. Some have migrated. I have met some of candidates actually now they don't have any enthusiasm to contest election. Yeah, yes. They are not interested. Then they will not contest. And other reason is, you know, that if I am correct, maybe Mr. Rohana will add something to that also, if the numbers are incorrect, that 42 members who submitted nomination under NPP are in parliament now. That means there's a vacuum. Then they have to resubmit their nomination also. But according to the election law, the local government law, they are not in the position to resubmit their nomination due to the technical issue. Actually, that law says like that. Then other thing is that political coalitions. We know that it is a the heritage of the inheritance, something inherited to South Asian region, that most of political parties are gathering as coalition when they are contesting in elections. Then at that time we saw there were many political alliances, but unfortunately
various symbols were being announced back then.
You may remember that one time
I vaguely remember helicopter.
Yes. Unfortunately it crashed soon after they established.
So those alliances, some of them may still be there, but or they may be actually reaffirmed as those alliances, or it would, those constituent parties might be making alliances with other parties.
And another scenario is, other factor is that you may remember that the SLPP and Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, actually at that time when he was contesting for the presidential election, most of SLPPers supported him. Then they also moved, then they are not under SLPP symbol right now. Then they also needed to change the political party. Then due to that, there are many
so basically
reasons.
What you're saying is politics makes strange bedfellows, and right now we don't know who's sleeping with whom.
Definitely, yeah. That's the that is simply yes. That another thing is, that it is democratic rights, and then also another legal scenario is that the youth quota. Now it is a that the state law. Now actually when it comes to elections, local government elections, you need to give the chance for youth, because there is a 25% youth quota. Then in order to address that issue also, we had to cancel. They had to cancel the election nominations. That's right. Due to all those reasons, actually, that the NPP cabinet decided to cancel the nominations.
Right. So it's logical then to cancel those nominations, which were more than 2 years ago, and to call for fresh nominations. So this is really a matter of procedure, isn't it? And Rohana, now explain to us the voter lists. Now we all know the Grama Niladhari will come round with a form every year, and you fill it, and then that becomes the voter list. What's the problem with that? Which list was used for the last two elections, and which list should be used for this one?
I think it's the right time to discuss about, because of the two reasons. One is now local election is coming soon, within next couple of months time, and also secondly, this is the time when the elections commission are doing their re-registrations to February. Early February they have already started for 2025 registrations, but it will continue maybe August, September. They will announce their final list end of the year. So whoever not registered, this is the right time, high time for them to get engaged with the Grama Niladhari and make sure that their name is in 2025 registry, because in case if we go for a provincial elections immediately after, not immediately after the local elections, but early next year, so the registry, the voter registry, which will be the 2025 one, will use for the provincial elections. For the local elections or even the other elections, the law is very clear. Whenever the elections declared, whatever the certified list by the elections commissions, they are going to use it. That's the laws.
So whichever list is the latest list certified by the elections commission is the one to be used. You can't have a new list and try to use the old list.
You can't, because now, for example, now these days we are processing with 2025 list.
But the 2024 list is in existence.
Exactly, exactly. For the if in a sense now it's already in the process, the parliament. So if we cancel these nominations, so we will go with the press voters list. Earlier one, 2023, which is already submit the nomination, if we go with that the same nominations, then we have to use 2022 list, because when the local elections declared at that time, the 2022 one was the official voter registry at that time. Now, when we cancel that, we can go for the press one. The press one means when we start the nomination somewhere in February or March, so that means the existing one means 2024 one. So that is what Manjula said. There are about nearly 450,000, 447,000 something new voters are registered. And also you know that there is a other system for every 4 months, right? Every 4 months youngest can get engaged with the elections commission. There is a supplementary list for the youth, so they can, 3 times per year, so they can get their registration. That's a really advantage which was introduced by the elections commissions last 2 years roughly. So those are positive things. Only disadvantage, I think, for this, if we cancel the nomination, because Manjula was talking about all these positive things, that we will lose 1.3 billion rupees, which has already utilized by the elections commission for previous nominations, because they have printed the ballot papers also, and they have trained the government officials. So they have already spent 1.3 billion rupees at that time. And also there are no, that's actually the second issue is a political one. It's nothing related to voters or us. Sometimes some of these candidates, those who got the nomination in the previous list or to 2023 nominations, they may not get the nomination at this time. There will be a newcomers, but of course we have to respect for that, because some candidate maybe not have much interest to contest, but on the other hand, those who even interest to be a candidate maybe not get the nominations through their political party system. But that's completely it's a political decisions by the party leaders and their district and area organizers. It may not affect for the public.
Right, because I think in the last two elections, the presidential and the general election, so many politicians at the national level and at the local level shifted their allegiances from this candidate to that candidate and shifted all over the place. So that would no doubt have some bearing on whether the party that they originally got nominated from 2 years ago, if they stayed with that party for the last 2 elections, then they might get nominated again. But otherwise they might get chucked out. So, I mean, that's all.
I think the helicopter is the main and easy example for us. It has blasted because we know former President Maithripala Sirisena, and then former MP Vimal Weerawansa,
and late politician Nilgama,
and Mr. Dala Salah Peruma. So all of them were in under one symbol. They contest for they submit their local council nominations under that symbol. But now they are with so many different political parties. Some of them has give up the politics also, but again we heard that they are coming back. But anyway, so
yes, it's quite interesting that after the general election, when we approach politicians to come on this show, many of them said, well, I'm stepping back from politics for a while, but now it seems some
gradually
of them coming back. So
because
that's all good, because we need democracy to flourish. Manjula, now tell us about this situation of how many new voters would we be talking about in 2 years? We roughly have between 225 and 250,000 new voters a year, isn't it? I mean, if you take, we know how many sit for their O-levels every year, and it's a little more than that, because not everyone sits for their O-levels, but it's about that much, isn't it? New voters who come in.
Yeah, I think, when as is in the last 2 years, the maximum number of voters will be nearly 450, as Ms. Rohana correctly mentioned.
450,000
in between 450,000, 475,000. In between, actually, the most important thing is that, as he mentioned, that the young voters, then nearly 125,000 young voters. Last election, actually, we saw that nearly 75,000 young voters were there. But we don't know exact figures what will happen in this time, but you know that if there is a attractive campaign, voter education campaign and other stuff, actually election commission will be able to increase that youth members. However, you know that the most of things after the parliamentary election, we can't see such a move. Now everything just like freezing, no? That anyway, election commission is engaging with the updating electoral list these days. That's the thing. However, still we feel that PAFREL and other organizations are doing a lot on that regard, that introducing advanced voting system, that the alternative voting system to Sri Lanka, because still we can see there are thousands of voters to be included into this list due to many reasons. Actually, we know that all those voters, all those people have voting rights. Unfortunately, still due to Grama Niladhari's problem and the migration, now they are coming back to Sri Lanka. Due to many problems, actually, some of people couldn't include into their name into the registration.
Right. So we'll go a little more in depth into all this and also the PC election. But we need to take a short commercial break right now. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, MIM, in collaboration with the University of Wolverhampton, offers 2 world-class master's degree programs: MA Film and Television Production, MSc Digital Marketing Management. Call now on 076 882 2707.
ඒගොල්ලන්ට මේ අපිට කියන්න බෑනේ මේ අනේ හාල් ටික හොයලා දෙන්න කියලා. අහන ප්‍රශ්නේ තමයි උත්තර දෙන්න ඔබතුමාට අහපු ප්‍රශ්නෙට. ඌ බලාපොරොත්තු කන්දක් දීලානේ ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. සදාකාලිකව ඒගොල්ලන්ට කොරායි කිඹුල්ලු බල බලා ඉන්න පුළුවන්.
ජනතාව බලාපොරොත්තු වන ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ශනික යම්කි සහනයක්.
දැනට තියෙන රජයයි ඒ තිබිච්ච රජයන අතර අහසට පොළොව වගේ වෙනසක් තියෙනවා.
මොකද අපි දැක්ක මීට පෙරත් ඔය ජවනිකාව අපි දැක්ක ඔය නාට්‍ය අපි දැක්කා. කලබල වෙන්න එපා රොෂාන්. අපි ඔය වගේ ප්‍රශ්න කරන්න ආචාර්ය උපාධි සහතික නැතුණා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්ද?
ඒක පැහැදිලි කිරීමක් කරන්න වස්ස ඔබට තීරණය කරන්න පුළුවන්.
අපි හැමෝම එකතු වෙලා මේ රට හදමු.
දවස සතිය දිනපල සවස 6:30ට මේ වසන්තේ මේ
Welcome back to Face to Face. We are in conversation with Rohana Hettiarachchie, Executive Director of PAFREL, and Manjula Gajanayake, Executive Director of IRIS. And we are discussing the local government election and the possibility of the provincial council election. Now, Rohana, what about the quotas, which are really something of an experiment, where for the local government election, 25% of councillors, after they are elected, 25% of the councillors are supposed to be women. Am I correct?
Yes, actually it is not really the experiment, because we had that experience in 2018 elections.
But it wasn't quite perfect, was it? In some councils, I think they couldn't get the 25.
There are few councils, because there are some exceptional on the making compulsory the women's councillors. For example, now the elections commissions make sure after the elections, Commission need to make sure that each council do have a 25% women's are in represent.
So if you have 20 councillors in a particular Pradesh Sabha, 25% of that is 5 councillors need to be women, 5 or more.
Exactly.
But what happens if the entire Pradesh Sabha has not 20, but let's say 22 or 23 councillors? Then how do you divide it? Do you round up and it becomes 6?
It went like this. For the nomination, it was 10% compulsory
from each party.
For the no, not the compulsory for the nomination. Compulsory to through the vote base, because there are 2 lists, right? Contesting list and the PR list. So the contesting list also, they have to nominate 10% women's each political party. And the PR list, they have to submit 50% of that list. But end of the day, they need to make sure 25% women are in place. Election Commission need to make sure finally. What happened was, the 10%, those who get elected, most of the places they get elected, vote base. But 15%, when they fulfill that 15%, there are some other criteria also need to look at by the Elections Commission, because there were some local authorities, there are so many minor parties, we can't say it a minor party, but there are so many parties are contested. So some parties get only 1 or 2 members. The Act clearly says, if your party are getting less than 2 representative, you are not compulsory to give the women's councillor. If you are not if you are getting less than 20% of the total vote out of that local authority area, you also not not compulsory to nominate 1 woman. So Election Commission has to consider that also. I think there are 6 or 7 local authorities were not in that category, because some local authorities, I can't remember the names, but they got two members for each party, 3 members for each party. The major party has to, two major party has to serious about this women's quota. Actually, the last elections, main opposition party has to fill lot of women councillors, because they got more than 3 representatives. They got more than 20% of total votes. So they were part of the compulsory group, and they have to fulfill most of the women's. But finally, with all that, it end up with 23% 8. So that means
23.8%.
8%. So 1.2 they were not able to fulfill. But for this election, the second time which we are exercising, because the first time when we exercised that women's quota, political parties also was not ready, and they were named, or they brought some women's candidate. Some of them are just they are factory workers. I'm not undermining them, and then some family members, even the domestics. Because they were not serious about, they didn't they didn't thought that it will be legalized, right? So some parties were not prepared for that, and some parties don't have a women's arms in the ground level. Nowadays, I think after that, I think most of the parties do have their women's arms. So in the upcoming elections, so therefore I think that it will be not a big issue. But at the same time, this time, Niresh, I think Manjula just mentioned, the youth quota also brought into the system. Actually,
how does that work?
It was there before 2012. There was no women's quota, but youth quota was there. But unfortunately, when we changed the electoral system, when we brought the mixed system with the women quota, somehow we forget about the youth component. But now 2023, we brought this youth quota also. Now men and women, the both together, we have to make sure 25% quota. So it can
for
be
youth. Right.
For the youth.
Okay.
Also clear, women's also clear, but it can be a both, even together, but you have to make sure the 25% are in the system.
Now, what is youth? What is the classification here? Is it 30 years, 35 years, 40 years? I mean, I know some politicians who are as old as I am, and they still call themselves youth in order to try to get the youth vote. But
maybe
so what is the
legally below 35?
Below 35. That sounds rational. Yes. Okay. So below 35. is that quota. Okay, so we've got those two quotas, and hopefully all that works out, and it's up to the Election Commission to make sure it does. Right. Now,
so one more thing actually, Ray, sorry. No, election, that's a Election Commission duty. But if they were not submit when during the nominations, if any political party or independent group fail to bring this quota into their list, the list will be disqualified. So
disqualified.
So the political party do have responsibility to make sure at the nominations level they have to fulfill this requirement according to the law. I mean, Elections Commission will do their job end of the day after the elections to make sure that quota, only the women's are compulsory, youth are not compulsory in that way. But political party need to make sure that they all these quota bring into nomination list.
Right. Now, let me ask one rather basic question. The application form for nominations, does it ask male or female? And the reason I am asking this is we have had instances before where the Election Commission says that there is no way to figure out whether a person is even a citizen of Sri Lanka. And I think in the presidential election, a male-female was not specified. So, does this local government
for the local elections, I think
have that? Because it needs to.
Yeah.
Because many Sri Lankan names, especially when they are written in English, you can't identify which way it is.
I think for the local election, yes, it should be there. It's definitely the male, female, and the youth component. We have to. It should be visible, no?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that will be there.
There's a assigned column asking number of how many youth, how many women like that. That's why due to the failure of mentioning number of women in the nomination list during 2018 local government Election Commission was rejected the nomination submitted by Ms. Kanti Kodikara and others of SLPP. That's the reason there's an assigned special column to include.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Manjula, let me ask you, what is the situation with regard to the SLFP, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, one of those old parties in Sri Lanka, and in recent years there's been so much infighting and so many alliances which have then broken apart, and then of course this matter I believe is still before court. What would happen with the SLFP if and when the local government elections are held in April? Because then we would presumably have the nominations being called next month in March. So what would happen with the SLFP?
Yeah, you know, when studying electoral history of Sri Lanka, it is worth to study structure of Sri Lankan political parties and evolve of that Sri Lankan political culture, as well as what's the functions and registration process of political parties. It is something lack in Sri Lankan election system. Before answering your question, actually there's another trend you may observe, that you know that most of traditional parties are being shared in the context. You know that the NPP, I mean partially new political party with a new symbol, as well as main opposition party Sajaba Samagi Jana Balawegiya with telephone, then new political party, and as well as previous ruling party SLPP. They also established very recently, and they were able to win the election in 2018 local government election, comparatively actually new political party with a new symbol of Pohottua. Then Sri Lankan people, it is not like other countries, I am part of other region actually, that, but in Sri Lankan context that most of people are rejecting some of traditional political parties. But we can't forget that the history of SLPP, thanks for asking that question, because we have to revisit what has happened. You know, in 1947 was the very first election conducted in Sri Lanka parliament election. At that time, there were only four or five political parties were contesting. After that, after the second parliamentary election, after that Mr. Bandaranaike was a member of UNP, then he crossed over and created a new political party as SLFPP. Then SLFP. Then after that, that most even last time, even now, actually, some of political parties criticize that Sri Lanka had controlled by only two political parties, UNP, the UNPO, SLFP, and they had a wonderful history. They produced the world very first prime minister, women prime minister, yes, as well as I think third women executive president, also then produced by SLFP. Then after that, what has happened? That in recent past it has broken pieces by pieces, because we know that in front of Dali Road, actually, that the weekdays, actually some of factions are going there. After that, other factions are approaching to unlock their doors. That's the problem. Most of problems started with the creation of SLPP, because the decision made by Mr. Maithripala Sirisena to contest for the presidential election in 2015, there was a shift in change, that then started the contest between two political parties. After that, that when it comes to 2022, there was an undemocratic effort taken by Mr. Maithripala Sirisena. He changed drastically the party constitution. Changing that, with that changes, actually, he got power himself in 2022. Then he got most vast, the almighty powers as the chairman of the political party. After that, actually, another problem is, that in constitution, actually, they had powers, and as advisors, political advisors, there were many political advisors as party previous executives, that executive presidents as Madam Chandrika, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, and all of them were advisors for the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. But at that time, after the change in the party constitution, they have not invited for those advisors to attend some of their party conventions. Then such things are happening at that time. After that, actually, when it comes to the last presidential election, actually, they wanted to support majority of people, party members and supporters, actually, politicians were supported Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, while others are supporting Mr. Sajith Premadasa. Now, where's Sri Lanka Freedom Party? Now, I saw that there's a column that the news that Mr. Maithripala Sirisena wanted to go away from political party organizing part and other stuff, as well as his son, Mr. Daham Sirisena, was contesting under Ubima Janata Party, Sarvajana Chandabale, Sarvajana Bale, that such things also happening right at that time.
But all this can change, Manjula, because our politicians change their minds very, very quickly. Sometimes when we invite politicians for this very program, we call them in the morning to confirm, yes, you're coming at 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. or whatever. And then by the time they arrive, they have changed parties. But,
however, I guess that in recent past, within 2 or 3 years, they will not be able to gain the previous pride, that golden era. That's the thing.
Yes,
actually, they will take another decades to create the political party as what they were in past.
Right. Now, can I ask both of you, what about the symbols? Are we, for the local government election, will we see a fresh set of symbols being assigned, or is it the same?
Course, yeah.
How will it work?
Now, election commissions do have a registered symbol. So, those political parties, those who have already their own symbol, so they can contribute that. But the other groups, they can ask, demand for the new symbol, and if there is no competitions on that, I think Election Commission will decide on that. But the main parties, those who have the party symbol, so they can proceed with the symbol. There is no issue with that. So that's the normally even during elections, that's the procedure they followed.
The prime example was that prime example is that the gas cylinder in 2018 election, one of independent groups members were taken that the parties the gas cylinder in 2018. After that, president was contesting under gas cylinder symbol.
Yes, it was quite confusing.
That can be changed.
And then the elephant was going somewhere else as well.
Now, actually, that the only one member in parliament to represent elephant, no, Mr. Jeevan Tondaman.
Yes,
that is drastic change.
Right, and now finally, let's get to the provincial council election. Rohana, what's the situation there? Because we don't hear much about it, but then that is a major election, and personally speaking, I'm rather tired of politicians deciding if an election should be held or not, and when it should be held, and then delaying elections and doing all these very undemocratic things which basically rob the people of their sovereignty. So if it's there in the constitution, it should be held. If you want to change it, but if it's the law,
follow the law, right?
You follow the law.
Actually, unfortunately, Sri Lanka, we don't have a election calendar. We don't have a scheduled elections. Some countries, as you said, that it's constitutionally cleared when the election is taking place. All these elections. Now, unfortunately, Sri Lanka don't have that constitutional provisions, but nobody can postpone the elections. There are some windows, grey areas or legal provision for certain elections call early. So political party, as you said, clearly said, the political party and their leaders has discretions to play with us, play with the citizens. Now, presidential elections, the president can declare early, but he can't postpone the presidential election. President can declare parliamentary elections after 2.5 years now, at any time. Local council, the minister do have authority for 1 year, which has already done in 2022. That's how it changed. The provincial elections and the local elections also, it was due for a long period, mainly because of the political will again. Now, Manjula was just touch on that in his talk. Now, 2013, the former president, actually he was the Prime Minister, Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, he brought a bill for provincial council amendment. So we realized that during, this is 2017, during Yahapalana government, we realized this bill brought mainly because to postpone the provincial election. So we went to court, PAFL and I think CPA and several other groups, I can't remember, but of course PAFL went to court and there are many others also went to court. Then the government withdrew the case, withdrew the bill. Then again, they brought up new bill. It called 20th amendment, but not the same 20th amendment which was passed later. It introduced, just 1-page document, introduced women's quota. So nobody was challenged, including us, because we also campaigned for women's political rights. So they brought nice document, nice proposal, just to give a 50% quota, 25% quota for women's. Nobody went to court, nobody challenged. Then what happened was, when it's come to the second reading in the parliament, they brought completely new electoral system, 32-page new system. It's unethical.
Right.
But as a result, the parliament passed it. So they brought mixed system, 50-50 portion, 54 electorate basis, 54 list basis. Nothing wrong with that system. System is fine. But when you change the system, when you mix the system, then there was a compulsory element for delimitations.
Right.
So at that time we had a bad experience with the local council also with the delimitations. Delimitation is very essential, important part for the politics. So therefore, I think the parliament appoint the committee, and they have given the time for 4 months to complete delimitations. Actually, the person Commissioner General of Elections was the secretary of the committee, and they have done it within 4 months period. But again, unfortunately, the minister who brought up this proposal to the parliament, he himself against that delimitation report and the bill.
Correct. Yes.
So as a result, the delimitation was not passed in the parliament. Then the same bill has given a provision in case if the parliament doesn't pass it, then the speaker would have appointed the committee. Provision has cleared. But within the 3 months, that committee has to submit their report. Then once they submit the report, the Prime Minister headed committee, then it resolved the delimitation issue. But the speaker also not appoint the committee at the given time, but anyway, it takes little time, but he appoint the committee. Then the Prime Minister was Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe at that time. He was the head of the committee. Within 3 months, they were supposed to submit the report. 1 day before they submit the report, but we know that the committee was met only on one occasion according to our knowledge. They were not serious about it because they play with us. I mean, all the political party, not only RW or that party, I think everybody.
We are almost out of time. So,
yeah, I'm going to finish it. So 1 day before they submit the report, the former president, Maithripala Sirisena, dissolved the parliament, unconstitutionally dissolved the parliament. Then after that, nobody knows where to go now. Now either we have to go back to the previous system or whether we have to complete the delimitation. So now the situation, now it's up to the parliament. The elections commission are helpless because without having a clear number of votes, they can't call for the nominations. Law has to be clear. Delimitation has to be clear. So therefore now it has delay almost 6 years now, unfortunately, but we hope that present government, after the local government elections, that should be their priority.
Well, we certainly hope that that will happen, and it has to happen. Otherwise, what's the point of the constitution saying that the people are sovereign? Because sovereignty means we have the right to vote in the prescribed elections. Right, I'm afraid we are out of time. It's been a very interesting discussion indeed. My thanks to Mr. Manjula Gajanayake, who is the Executive Director of IRIS, and of course Mr. Rohana Hettiarachchie, the Executive Director of PAFREL. Thank you very much for being with us this evening, gentlemen.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thank you for being with us.
And thank you very much to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up next. Have a good night.